Good morning, everybody. Welcome. So glad you've joined us this morning for our monthly Tread Talk. We've got an exciting program for you all. Anyway, with that, let me introduce our speakers this morning. I'm honored to introduce Tracy Anderson and his wife. Are you right here, Tracy? Would you kind of raise your hand there? And Jennifer and Andy Elliott here in the front, who will be sharing their expertise and experiences with the exciting world of Jeep overlanding. Tracy is an architect and partner with Anderson Knight Architects. If you've enjoyed our new Tucker and DeLorean time machine galleries, you can thank Tracy and his team for their outstanding design work and bringing those galleries together. So thank you, Tracy, for that work. Many of you know Jennifer Elliott, our museum's director of marketing. She's here today with her husband, Andy, an automobile claims adjuster, and they share a deep passion for adventure. Together, these teams, Tracy and Jennifer and Andy, embrace the growing lifestyle of Jeep overlanding, where the journey is as important as the destination. Overlanding combines off-road exploration with camping, allowing adventurers to travel into remote areas, experiences the great outdoors, and live with self-sufficiency, all while enjoying the unique capabilities of their Jeeps and overland vehicles. Please join me in giving them a warm and enthusiastic welcome, and I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you for the introduction, Doug. We are here to talk about overlanding, car camping, hiking, basically generally being outside. I know Doug said Jeep overlanding, but I don't want to leave Tracy out with the 4Runner. So four-wheel drive vehicles, we'll say that. I'm going to talk, Doug did a great job introducing us, but I do want to special thanks to Tracy and my husband, Andy. When I came up with this idea, Tracy and I had lunch a lot of months back with Doug, and Tracy and I got to talking and figured out we both, had an interest in this. And later he came in working on the projects here at the museum, and I said, "What do you think about doing a Tread Talk with me about this?" And he kind of gave me the look like, "Okay." And that's kind of the same look I got from my husband when I said, "Hey," and I didn't ask him. I said, "Hey, we're going to do a Tread Talk at the museum," and he kind of looked at me like, "Okay." So thank you guys for doing it. I really appreciate it. I know Doug introduced us, but again, I'm Jennifer Elliott. I've been here at the museum for almost a year. And my husband, Andy, that I roped into helping me today. And then we are the parents of two boys, so you can see them here. Drew is a freshman at the University of Nebraska-Kearney, and my youngest son is a 7th grader, and we live in Chapman, so not too far away. The social media trend of how it started, how it's going, that's how I'm going to introduce us. How we started into this and then how it's going. How we started was basically hiking. I love the mountains. We started doing day hikes. You can see us here in a couple of our day hikes, had a lot of fun. Dragged my husband along and he loved it too. Did a couple of, did that for years, and then one time we were heading up a mountain and I saw these people with these big old packs on, and I said, "What are they doing?" And he said, "I think they're backpacking, like they're gonna go stay the night up in the mountain." And I'm like, "I think we should do that." So we did. So we started backpacking. And again, I'm kind of the idea person. Thank goodness for my husband. He figures out all the best equipment to make it actually doable. So we did a couple of backpacking trips in Colorado. Really loved it. Had a lot of fun. It is a lot of work. And then we drug our kids on a trip. So this is us, Rocky Mountain National Park a few years ago. Again, all the things on your back. We hiked up 10,000 feet. My oldest son did not understand the concept of walking. He's a runner, and so the whole walking for hours up a mountain, he was like, "I don't know about this." And my youngest loved it, thought it was great, but didn't understand the concept of mountain lakes with not a lot of fish, so he couldn't go fishing. So I'm not sure that the boys were really on board with us backpacking. But we love the outdoors. The next step for us was a camper. So, going to the lake, camping, we love doing that. But one of my problems with camping in a campground is I'm going camping because I want to get away from people. which, if you guys have ever been out to the lake, it's kind of a social gathering, which is great. But this is how it's going for us. This is how we got into overlanding. Camping was great. We loved going to the lake, but I said, I think let's try something different. Let's get away from people. How do we do that and not have to carry, 50 pounds of gear on your back? So almost a year and a half ago, I saw a Facebook post about a rack and a rooftop system used. A guy in Lawrence had it. And again, I looked at my husband and I said, what do you think about overlanding? And he's like, okay, I don't know. Let me look into it. We could probably do this. So this is how we got started. I'll give the microphone to Andy for just a minute here, and he can tell you a little bit about our setup. You could see it outside along with Tracy's 4Runner. But this is Groot, so everybody names their Jeeps. My Jeep's name is Groot. So I'll let Andy talk for just a second about the rooftop tent and the rack and our setup on the Jeep.
So in the Jeep world, you can pretty much do whatever you'd like because there's all kinds of options. But for us, we went with 20-inch wheels, 37-inch tires, 4-inch lift, and that seems to give us enough ground clearance when we get into Utah and Colorado to be able to go wherever we need. We're running a mid-rack, so our tent sits right below the cab, so we can get some good gas mileage going down the road. And then we run fuel cell and liquid or just water on the side of the rack just for extra. So that's kind of our setup as far as that goes.
I'm going to talk a little bit about where we've been overlanding, and so I will definitely say we're not experts, but we've probably spent now 20 nights, out overlanding between 2 trips to Utah. We've done a couple of, one night just, around here kind of camping, testing it out, but we've spent about 20 nights in Utah. We did our first trip out to Utah last summer in June, and I'm going to talk about where we went, where to camp if you're interested in getting started in overlanding, talk a little bit about our setup and lessons learned, because we've learned a lot of lessons in the couple of times that we've been out. So I don't know how many of you have been to Utah. We had not been to Utah until last summer, the first time. I was telling someone earlier that Colorado used to be my favorite state. It has now been replaced with Utah. It is beautiful, and I haven't even seen the entire state yet. But we did our first trip. We did 10 days out in Utah last summer in June. You can kind of see, number one, I should have started with, I'm a huge national parks and public lands person. I'm a fan of that. I wanted to see, you can see I tried to pack in as much stuff to see and things to cross off our list while we were in Utah our first trip. So real quick outline, we went to Arches National Park, Canyonlands National Park. I know there's the big 5 in Utah, but we only made it to 3 this trip. We went to Dead Horse State Park, Goblins State Park, Capitol Reef National Park, Bears Ear National Monument, Natural Bridges National Monument, and then we hit the Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado on the way home. I will say one thing that this is, the couple of trips that we've taken, it's really taught me. I used to say I wanted to hit all 63, 64 national parks. I'm almost a bigger fan now of state parks and national monument public lands. They're just as great as national parks, honestly. And again, less people. That's kind of a theme for us, less people. So Canyonlands National Park, I'm going to talk a little bit about that area. If you've never been, there's 5 districts to Canyonlands National Park. It's one of the largest national parks per square mile in the contiguous 48 states. Now, Alaska is a whole different animal, so but Canyonlands is huge. A couple of things I wanted to point out here. You can see the Slot Canyon hike that we did. It's called Little Horse Canyon. I don't know how many of you have ever done a Slot Canyon hike. This was our first time. It is amazing. It is. We didn't even do one of the ones where you have to, they have signs at the beginning before you start, and you have to be able to fit through the sign before you can do the Slot Canyon hike. This wasn't quite that bad because I'm a little claustrophobic. But I will say, and we're going to talk about some of the lessons and some safety tips here in a minute, but this Slot Canyon hike that we did last summer, they actually ended up rescuing people out of this canyon just last week, because of just a rogue local thunderstorm. The thing about Utah and canyons like this, that if they even get just a few inches of rain, it can cause flash flooding very quickly, and slot canyons are very dangerous in thunderstorms. And so you can only see about this much of the sky while you're hiking, but you really have to keep an intense eye on the weather when you're doing a slot canyon hike. So it was beautiful. All of these places were beautiful, but we really loved Canyonlands National Park. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I know I'm just showing you a link here, but when we talk about, one of the things that I didn't realize about Utah until we went, I mean, I'm from the middle of Kansas. You think that we're rural here, and I'd never been to Utah. I had done a lot of reading, I'd done my research, I kind of knew where we wanted to go, I knew hikes, I knew things that we wanted to see. But unless you've been to this part of Utah, I was unprepared for exactly how remote it actually is. And it's one of the things that we'll talk about as far as safety lessons when you're out in the middle of nowhere. I wanted to show you a little bit. We had a hike that we wanted to do. I told you there's 5 districts of Canyonlands National Park, and one of them is called Horseshoe Canyon. If you can see the map here, you can see if you've ever heard of Moab, Utah is right here. And you can see Grand Junction, Colorado. This is I-70 that goes over to Salt Lake City. This whole space in the middle here, whole space. This is, you can see this shaded part in the center, that's Canyonlands National Park. This entire space here in the center, and actually let me back up. This entire space here in the center is Bureau of Land Management land. And in fact, I was telling someone earlier, Utah is one of these states, 70% of Utah is owned by either the federal government or the state government. And so it has a very low population compared to other states. And when I say there's nothing out there, and I had heard that until we went and actually saw it, there's nothing out there, nothing. This entire section, I can zoom in and you still won't see any roads, very few roads. We came out of Moab up 191 over on I-70 and then came down this highway here to Hanksville, or almost to Hanksville. As I zoom in, now one thing, and I'll tell you this later in the safety tips, you need to know your mileage. You need to know how far away you are from the next town, because we're used to things being, you go 20 miles and you can hit another gas station here in Kansas. There are no gas stations here. There are no people. There are no houses. There are no small towns. There are no electricity poles. There is no internet, and there's no gas. So you need to know how far you can make it. Andy mentioned we've got a gas tank on the side of the Jeep. It only holds a couple of gallons. And so until you get out to Utah, until you get out to this remote area, and again, I never really realized this, but you really got to keep an eye on your gas tank. So as we're heading out, there's a place that we wanted to go, and it's here in this little shaded area. It's not a contiguous part of Canyonlands National Park, but it is Canyonlands. It's called Horseshoe Canyon, and if you can see it here, and there's a place called Great Gallery Rock Art. It's a great barrier wall that has pictographs and petroglyphs that are dated 2,000 to 8,000 years old. We drove down this highway, and you think it's a 2-lane highway, very little traffic, in the middle of nowhere. And then we got off this highway and took a dirt road that's probably the worst dirt road I've ever been on in my entire life, 30 miles of this dirt road to get to the Horseshoe District of Canyonlands National Park. So just trying to set the scene for you here, it's one thing that I wasn't prepared for. I knew it was remote, but I didn't know it was this remote. So this whole entire area, nothing. This is what it looks like. So if you can see, our Jeep is parked here. We're on the edge of the canyon. We were the only people camping there. It's unlike some of the other national parks. If you've been to national parks, you can see it has a sign. So if you're big on getting your picture taken with the national park sign, as we are, but we were the only people there. There is no entrance fee. I think they think that if you're crazy enough to go out there, that you probably don't need to pay the $30 to get into a national park. And so we camped right there on the edge of the canyon. And we actually camped there for 2 nights. Now, I'll talk a little bit in another slide about this, but one of the other things that I was shocked about Utah, I mean, again, I'm a Kansas girl, grew up in the center of Kansas, grew up out in the country. I thought I knew what stars looked like. You do not know what stars look like until you're out in the middle of Utah. So, but here's some pictures of us doing this hike. Now, I know Tracy's going to talk a little bit about climbing mountains. We actually went down in a canyon, which is great on a hike on the way down. Now, remember, we got to hike back up. Andy likes to point at things in pictures. But in this picture up here, whoops, he is pointing to that at the very tip of his finger. That's our Jeep. That's on the edge of the canyon. So that's how far we hiked down. It's almost 1,000 feet down in this canyon. And it's about a 3-hour hike to get to these pictographs that you see here. You can kind of see them in the picture with us in front of them. And he's pointing at them here. Again, these are 2,000 to 8,000 years old. They can't exactly date them because they're painted on. Now there's petroglyphs as well in Utah. They're scratched out of the rock, but these are painted on. And so again, 2,000 to 8,000 years old. There's a couple of sites in this canyon, but it took us about 3 hours to get to the site. So, and again, we'll talk a little bit about safety and things when you're hiking, but you've got to think, not only now are we 30 miles off a pretty deserted highway, now we're 1,000 feet and a couple hours into a canyon, and there's no cell phone service. So nobody is coming to save you. You need to make sure you're prepared. But it was a wonderful hike. It's probably some of the coolest, paintings. Just to think that the Indians, the native people who lived in this land thousands of years ago were here, and they're still in pristine condition. So this is why we overland, so we can learn some history and see things that other people can't. So we had a wonderful first trip. I was telling my aunt, who is here to support me today, I was telling her that very rarely do I want to go back to the same place again when we travel, except for Utah. And we've only been to the southeast quadrant. There's so much to see. So much to see. So we decided, again, we just got back 2 weeks ago. We went to Utah again for our second trip. Some of the places that we stay, I mentioned earlier, Bureau of Land Management. When you're overlanding, and if you don't want to camp in an organized campground, so if you camp at a state camp or you camp at a national park, you have to camp in one of their organized campgrounds. They don't allow dispersed camping. And again, they're great campgrounds, but you're right next to people. If you want to do dispersed camping and overlanding, you need to utilize Bureau of Land Management land, national forests, or national monuments. Thank you. The view that you see here is about 13 miles outside of Moab, and this is on Bureau of Land Management land. And all that they ask you to do is camp within a place. Don't mess with any vegetation. Try to find a spot that's already been utilized. If you see a fire ring, try to camp there. We'll also talk about this in a minute, but the 7 principles of leave no trace, so that's important as well. But I mentioned the night sky in Utah. One of the things that I didn't know till our first trip last summer is that many national parks are designated night sky, dark sky parks. That means there is no light pollution. And I did not know that there were so many stars until we stayed in Utah. So Andy did a great job of capturing one of the pictures one night. And I'll click on this here in a second and show you this. But we visited this past trip 2 weeks ago. We visited Canyonlands National Park, and we visited the Needles district, which is another part of Canyonlands that we didn't hit the first time that we were there. And then we also hit Mesa Verde National Park, Colorado on the way home. But if you have some time, look up the National Parks website and look up their night sky maps. It's very interesting. They have monitoring stations all over the U.S. and they have maps and they can tell you where you're going and how polluted it is with light. So light pollution is not something that I had ever thought about, but there are designated dark sky parks where they obviously do not want any development near those parks. They try to, Moab is a great example of it. They have minimal night lighting. They do have street lights, but they're dim. They like to have business lights pointed down. There's some very strict dark sky certified national parks and state parks in Arizona as well. So, and it's, it's a natural resource that you don't really realize that we need to protect because the view of the night sky is amazing when there's no light pollution. So if you're ever bored sometime, look up the National Parks website. Talk a little bit about, I know if you saw our Jeep sitting outside, the setup here, it's really pretty simple, not as easy as Tracy's. Andy is envious of Tracy's pop-up tent on his 4Runner, but our Jeep tent is pretty easy to set up. The tent itself probably takes, Andy's an expert at it now, 5 minutes. I'm going to time it now. The whole setup, everything we use to camp, we probably can set the whole thing up in about 20 to 30 minutes. But I have a quick little video that just shows him after he unzips the top. You just pull it down here. And I mentioned we've been backpacking, so I know what it feels like to sleep on the ground. This is much more comfortable. So we spent 7 nights in a row in this in Utah 2 weeks ago. It's very comfortable. Just a view of some of the roads that we drove on in Utah. And I know I've got a couple of Jeep people here. I'm super glad that you guys are here. One thing that I don't like to do with my Jeep, I know a lot of people like to do the rock climbing and those types of things. I love my Jeep too much and I don't have the money to replace broken parts that much. But so this was making me very nervous. But this is a normal road that you can drive on BLM land to get to some of these spots. So it is remote. I wanted to show you this is on BLM land. This is dispersed camping. This is right outside the Needles. It's a few miles outside the Needles District National Park entrance. And this is a spot we chose to camp one night. And this is just a little video of the 360-degree views. It is beautiful. I cannot tell you, again, this is just Bureau of Land Management land. So many views like this in Utah that aren't in national parks. It is amazing. It is quiet. One of the things that we had to get used to is that it's wonderful. There's no mosquitoes, but there's no crickets. There's not a lot of birds. There's not a ton of wildlife, and nights there are absolutely silent. Takes you a little bit of getting used to when you're sitting outside. We were just sitting outside our house last night, and you can hear the crickets and all the different things. Utah's a different animal. It is very quiet. All right, now we're going to talk about the fun stuff. Leave no trace. Leave no trace principle, and this means you. When you're camping on Bureau of Land Management land, one of their requirements, at least in Utah, because it is mostly rock, that you have a toilet set up. If they catch you out on dispersed camping and you do not have some kind of setup, because leave no trace means if you pack it in, pack it out. And that means everything, trash, human waste, everything. If you do not have some kind of setup and you can prove that to a ranger, you will get a ticket. And so as funny as it is one of those things that is pretty serious because there's lots of folks, BLM included. We've been to one of their ranger stations. We've talked with the folks. I know they get tired of tourists and people taking advantage and trashing things. They don't need any more excuses to prevent us from using public lands. And so it's extremely important, if you read the 7 principles of leave no trace, it's extremely important that folks follow those things because they will enact restrictions and take away land and not give us access to utilize those places. And I know that if some of you are looking at it right now thinking, I could never go pee in a Napa bucket, it's just the two of us, it's not a big deal. Well, if that thought makes you uncomfortable, please don't go out dispersed camping because it may just be 1 or 2 people, but if everybody thinks that way, then our public lands will not be taken care of. So this is your toilet for the week. And the poo gel is just like what it says. If you've ever seen the inside of a diaper, it kind of expands, soaks everything up. It is really a pretty good system. And again, it's a requirement if you're going to be dispersed camping. We're going to talk a little bit about equipment in a second. Andy can show you what we did for showers. We did shower. We did not spend 7 days not showering, don't worry. So let's talk about some of the things, the safety, equipment, and plans. I'll go real quick through some of the safety things. If any of you all have ever been hiking, same thing applies for overlanding. Use the buddy system. You really don't want to go by yourself. Basic hiking principles. We did some day hiking while we're overlanding, a day pack. You should always pack in that backpack what you need for an overnight, just in case you get stranded out in the wilderness. Something to keep you warm, enough water, plan for the climate that you're in. You need to have some sort of I've mentioned numerous times, we got no cell phone signal. Most of the week, we were places where we did not get a cell phone signal. We have a Garmin InReach, so it's an SOS system. It's satellite-based. I know that some of the new iPhones, you can utilize satellite to get a call or make an emergency call. You need to have some way, if you really have to have, to let people know where you're at or you're having an emergency, you need to make sure that you have some piece of equipment like that. One of the other things with hiking and being out, being out like we were for 3-4 days with no internet signal, try to let someone know your itinerary. So if you're doing a backpacking trip and you're going up a mountain and you're planned to be down the next day at a certain time, or like we knew we were going to be in Canyonlands for 2 or 3 days without cell phone signal, we laid out, told my parents kind of like, hey, we should be back in cell phone range about here. This is the area that we're going to. So let someone know your itinerary, the general area where you're in, when they should expect to hear from you again. Another principle of hiking that they recommend is, if you're just doing a day hike even, you park in the parking lot, leave your itinerary, when you left and when you expect to be back. Leave that on a note in the dash of your car so that, if you are, gone longer than expected, they know what trail you took. It's just helpful that if you do need help. Climate and weather. Make sure you know what you're walking into. I know Tracy can probably talk way more about this than myself, but I know if you're hiking, doing any kind of climbing, mountain, stuff, you're supposed to be up and off the summit by mid-afternoon because of thunderstorms. We drove through the San Juan Mountains in Colorado on the way home, and that week, that same afternoon or right around that time, there were 2 hunters, elk hunters, that were killed by lightning. And so mountain storms can be very dangerous. I will tell you, this probably goes under the lessons. We were camping outside Moab just this last trip. And again, no internet. I'm kind of a weather watcher. I like to have my radar up and I like to see what's coming because, I'm from Kansas. And we had been asleep for about an hour. And I told you that it's pretty silent in Utah. I heard something. I woke up and I'm like, I hear something. What is that? And it got a little louder and a little louder. And finally I woke Andy up and I'm like, and I looked out the tent and I'm like, I think I see lightning. And we just heard kind of this roar coming. It's very disconcerting. I mean, it doesn't rain much in Moab. Not a lot of thunderstorms, but apparently we brought the thunderstorms with us. I had no internet. I had no way to see the radar. We could just hear it coming. And about the time that he kind of woke up enough to figure out what was going on, he said, get out of the tent. The hail came. We got into the Jeep, hunkered down in the Jeep. We were waiting for the 80-mile-an-hour winds because, that normally comes in Kansas, but thank goodness it didn't. I guess apparently in Utah thunderstorms, it hails really heavy for a couple of minutes and then moves off. But one of the lessons that we did learn from that, and we didn't realize it before, you are safe in your vehicle from lightning. You are not safe in the tent from lightning. So if you're ever overlanding, get out of the tent and get in the vehicle. Make sure you're aware of your own physical fitness when you're doing any kind of trails and hiking and things. Normally, trails, especially in national parks or state parks, they often give you a rating. Because I'm telling you, if we would have gotten down in that canyon that we hiked in Canyonlands our first trip, if we weren't aware of our physical fitness and would have had some problems getting back out, there was no one for at least 50 miles that could have given us any help. So it's really important. Water. Andy will tell you, even just hiking, but even just when we're overlanding, it's probably the most challenging thing is to take enough water with you. So Andy can talk, you want to talk a little bit about some of the equipment?
So with our equipment, we keep it pretty basic. We carry a jump pack, charging system on the Jeep all the time because you never know when you're going to run out. Tire repair kit, just a basic plug kit, air compressor. Of course, the maps, because you don't have any internet, so you want your paper maps so you can know where you're going. Always carry my extra set of keys somewhere on the Jeep exterior in case the door locks. That would not be a good thing. Water and fuel, like I said before, we carry a little bit of extra on that, but everywhere we stop, you top water off just because you're always going to run out, especially we take showers, so we're always running 5 gallons of extra water just for bathing purposes. And then, our big thing too was just do a small trip if you're going to do it, and try that first, just to make sure that you're capable and can do all of these things.
I mentioned researching your destination. Lots of travel groups online, lots of ways to get, advice on different locations if you're thinking about going someplace you've never been. I mentioned calculating your gas mileage and your distance. You saw the tires on my Jeep. I don't get good gas mileage, so I have to be really aware of that. Be flexible in your plans. One thing that we also saw this last trip to Utah, get settled before dark. There was one night that we were going to do dispersed camping about 14 miles outside of Moab. We were kind of tired and we decided, you know what, we're going to stay just in an organized campground tonight. A lot of the campgrounds in national parks and a lot of these areas are first come, first serve. So you can't reserve them online. And so we saw a lot of people running around in vehicles and RVs and things like, right before dark trying to grab, camp spots. And so try to get settled before dark, because trying to do that in the dark and then set up would be a lot. We talked about this already. Let someone know your itinerary, at least a general idea of where you're going. And then one of the things that's really helpful is to check, no matter whether you're in a state park or a national park or BLM land, check in with the park rangers, the local Bureau of Land Management office. They can give you a lot of great maps. They can give you a lot of great tips on where to camp, where dispersed camping is allowed. And be aware, if you haven't been to national parks, a lot of them now, because of so many people, are implementing timed entry. So you have to have a specific ticket at a specific time to get in. Now, Canyonlands is not like that, but Arches National Park is. So just be aware of that. You can't just drive out and get in line and think you're going to get into some of these national parks. Again, we talked about leave no trace. And so there's 7 specific principles if you're going out. Leave no trace and leave the national land as you found it. Real quick, I wanted to mention some of our favorite products. Towels. This is our towels. They're microfiber, super small. They dry really fast and they pack up really small. Huge fan of these. Bungee cords, if you're overlanding. I don't even know what to tell you what all we use them for. We just always buy a whole thing of these and use them for a million things. So bungee cords. Down blankets. Tracy and I were talking about this earlier. Our tent, you can actually fold up and leave some of your bedding in it. Down blankets pack up really small. Here's one here. They're really, really light, and they're really warm. Plastic clips. Dollar store. Clip up the towels, hang up all kinds of things. We use the clips a ton as well. Leveling blocks. We pulled those out of our camper and took those with us. Those were great. Shower bag. Andy, I don't know if you want to show them the shower bag. Okay, well, this is our shower bag. You can fill it with 5 gallons of water, and it actually charges up. For us, the Jeep has an inverter and charges things while you drive, but it fills up. It also gets warm during the day, because of the sun, and that's how we showered. Again, we were out in the middle of nowhere, nobody near us. That's how you shower. Let me see what else we've got here. And Tracy can probably attest to this too, but if you're out hiking, you're backpacking, you can't really a lot of the times pack enough water to take with you. Life straws. So you can drink out of a river or a creek. These take out all the bad stuff that'll make you sick. So, one thing before I forget, I have little Jeep ducks, so please get one before you leave. One other thing that we also pack, bear mace. So if you're hiking up a mountain or if you just want to have it for protection, bear mace. You need to be aware of wilderness and the animals and the wildlife. I wanted to see a bear in Utah. I've wanted to see a bear in Colorado. I still have not seen a bear. It's on my list. But one thing in Utah to be aware of that we had to be aware of, you can see our tent is up in the air, which is great. Don't leave your shoes on the ground. So spiders, scorpions, and rattlesnakes like warm shoes. So we always put them up on a plastic tote before we'd go to bed. So again, if you're thinking about getting into this, look into where to camp. You can camp and do dispersed camping wherever you'd like on Bureau of Land Management land. You can do the same in national forests. They have a little bit different rules. You need to be within so many yards of a specific road or path and national monuments. So, and each one is specific to that area, but if you're looking into getting into dispersed camping, those are the areas where you can do it. And out of all the paths you take in life, make sure a few of them are dirt. So that's my portion. I'm going to turn it over to Tracy now, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the mountains, climbing, some of the things that I haven't done. But I sure appreciate you all being here today, and we'll take questions afterwards. So thank you. Tracy, your turn.
Thanks, Jennifer. I could certainly piggyback onto several things that Jennifer said. The whole leave no trace attitude and getting caught in a storm. My wife and I were camping up in North Dakota this summer. I'm a longtime triathlete, have been racing for almost 40 years now, and we went up there to do a race. I'm trying to pick off the states I've not raced in now. And we were camping in a state park, and a storm started coming through. And that's where I'm thankful my tent packs up in about 1 minute. Because we were sitting there, we could hear the alarms going off in Bismarck, and I said, let's pack it up. Now, our storm shelter for the next 2 hours was the vault toilet because they're made out of concrete. So I spent 2 hours in the vault toilet the night before a race. But the tent, the car, and there were 80-mile-per-hour winds. When my wife opened up the door to the toilet to see where I was, because I was moving the car, it pulled her out of the toilet, which was kind of a funny sight. One of my other things is my wife actually introduced me to camping back when we first started dating 30-some years ago. We're actually celebrating 30 years next week. But that was my first, and I just instantly fell in love with it. And so from there, we started camping more. We started going on backpacking trips. Once we had kids, we just dove them into it too. They thought being in a tent was the best thing ever, and especially because you get s'mores every night too. But eventually, we started taking bigger trips out to, say, Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, and a lot of trips to Colorado. And started out with primarily just car camping and moving on from there. And then a few years ago, I just said, I think I'm going to get a rooftop tent. And so if you saw the 4Runner out there, it's a stock 4Runner. I haven't lifted it yet. I haven't done anything. I don't have bigger tires. I have tire size MV, obviously sitting next to their Jeep. But I did put some rock sliders on it, just sort of almost as running boards, but for that, just in case, because I know myself well. I know I will try to go up a road that maybe I probably shouldn't. And I just wanted that little bit of safety to sort of careen off of a rock without damaging the car if I needed. So what you're seeing up here is sort of what my wife and I will do, or even sometimes myself if I'm by myself, is we'll use the rooftop tent, and then we just have basically a screen house that we use when we were car camping that we will slide right up to the back side. The tailgate will lift up underneath that, and now we have sort of a porch. And we have all of our other stuff that we'll take with us. So when we're going out for multiple days, we don't use a cooler anymore. We use a refrigerator. It's about the size of a cooler, and we hook that up to a solar generator. And so we'll do that, and then I have 2 solar panels that all sit out in the sun to help charge that. And that will usually get us several days without having to worry about really charging it too much. And then we also we kind of have a different type of portable shower, but we have a lot of the same equipment. If we're car camping, we use an actual sort of old Coleman style stove where we can cook multiple pots on there. But if we're backpacking, we take a jet boil type thing. The other thing that I've been doing lately, and I kind of started in 2017, is going out to Colorado and doing what's called 14ers. And so there's 58 mountains in Colorado that are above 14,000 feet in elevation. And I have a goal of picking all of them off. This year, I completed my 55th, so I have 3 more peaks to get, which I'll get next summer. And that was really one of the reasons doing this, to get a rooftop tent, because I like getting to, my wife doesn't always go on those trips with me. I like getting to the trailhead. Sometimes it's late, just pop the tent. This thing goes up in about a minute, and I can be up there sleeping. And as Jennifer alluded to, when you're hiking in the mountains of Colorado, our goal, and I go out with a handful of guys too, typically, the goal is to always be back to tree line by around noon. And so a lot of times we're starting our hikes at somewhere between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. Getting up, so it's usually light or just getting light when we get up, and then getting back down. Now, they're obviously all different distances of hikes, but that's kind of our goal. I did want to comment, dark sky. I will agree. The first time I saw something like that, I was with a friend. We were celebrating his 50th birthday, and we always try to do something stupid on his birthday. So he had bought a rooftop tent, but he didn't have a vehicle to put it on. So he put it on mine. And we went out to the Grand Canyon, and we did what's called rim to rim to rim. And that means we went from one rim down to the bottom of the canyon, up to the top of the south. We started on the north, went to the top of the south, went back down and back up all in one hike. So about 42 miles, and I think it took us 16 to 17 hours. So that was my first experience with a rooftop tent. And I thought, this is all right, because we can just stop wherever we want to and go to sleep. This particular location, this is out at San Luis Peak in Colorado. The other one was actually at Grays and Torrey's Peak in Colorado. And again, just kind of set up. This one actually had a pretty nice four-wheel drive road in with a few stream crossings and things like that. So you got to have a little bit of fun with the vehicle as well. One of these, this one, this is my friend Rick. This is the guy we celebrate and do stupid stuff together. This one is at the base of Yankee Boy Basin in Colorado, so down by Ouray and Telluride and all that location. Actually, more just outside of Ouray. And we were doing, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the peak. But At night, in locations like this, when you look up, yeah, you are seeing stars that you have never seen. And the one hike that Rick and I did at Uncompahgre Peak, which is outside of Lake City, Colorado, I mean, the Milky Way was as clear as it could possibly be. We just stood there in awe for minutes and minutes looking at that. This other one is still over at Gray's and Torrey's, I think, and just some of the views that you have in these remote locations. This is my group that I go out with. It's Ben Sigel and some other guys, the guy that owns the Manhattan Running Company. This is from this summer. Actually, this was a lot of fun because we took the train from Durango. This is up in the Chicago Basin, so outside of Durango, Colorado. And there's a train that goes from Durango up to Silverton and back every day. The train dropped us off about 2 hours into the ride, and then we had a 7-mile hike up into the basin. And so, sort of to Jennifer's comment, you're remote. If something goes wrong, you're not getting out of there easily. If you twist your ankle, if you break your leg, if you break your arm, there's nothing around. So and telling that to your kids when they're younger, like, hey, don't mess around. We can't get out of here easily. You have to be aware of that stuff. But there's 4 peaks in the Chicago Basin area, and this is a picture of us coming down one of them. This is a picture at the top. We were kind of socked in on the last 2 peaks that day. But yeah, just happy to answer any questions. But just getting out there, I'm kind of like Jennifer and Andy a bit. I don't dislike people. I love people, and I love being here. I'm very social, but I love getting out and getting remote and just sort of being alone. And one of the things I've noticed if I've gone out by myself and I'm out on a peak somewhere and I look around and I don't see anything other than the beauty of Mother Nature, I just sort of like to think about how insignificant I really am in the grander picture, which I know sounds kind of odd, but there's just sort of a calmingness to that it's like, wow, I'm just this little piece of this bigger picture. And that's just something I really enjoy. So with that, I'll just kind of wrap it up from there. And,
What are the 3 you haven't done? Putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, they're all down by Telluride and Durango area.
Okay.
It's El Diente, Mount Wilson, and Wilson Peak.
Okay. Wow.
And so Wilson Peak, everybody's probably familiar with. If you've ever drank a Coors beer, that's the peak that's on top of the beer, or on the beer can. And I really don't drink, other than maybe a glass of wine every once in a while, but I have been told by my group that I am damn well going to drink Coors beer on top of that final peak.
Yes.
So I've got that to look forward to next year.
That is no small feat to hike 55 of the 58 14ers. That's amazing. So very cool. Well, any of the 3 of us can answer questions. Don't run away, Tracy. Questions?
My question is protecting the environment. When you shower, do you collect your shower water and take it with you, or do you just allow the shower water to?
Great question.
What kind of soap do you use just to make sure, or what?
Honestly, very little soap. Try to not use a bunch of chemicals, and we just let the shower water, kind of go. But we try not to use much soap or hardly any. Really, you're rinsing off, to not. Yes.
Make bio
Yeah.
soap for that specific use.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we use some, especially like cleaning dishes and stuff. Now, unlike Jennifer, I'm happy to go 5, 6, 7 days without a shower. My wife, not so much, but yeah, it doesn't bother me for some reason.
Great question.
Do either of you take air out of your tires if you're going to be in rugged terrain? You might explain your process.
Yeah, and I'm sure Andy and Jennifer do too. But when you get onto some of those roads, it is really advisable to deflate your tires. I think I usually go down to about 18 or 20 psi. I don't want to go much lower that because I don't want to risk popping the bead off the rim. But yeah, great question because you can absolutely do it, but it is so jarring if you don't deflate your tires, and it makes such a huge difference if you do. So, and so I actually have an inflator that I carry with me. You guys probably do too. That when you get down off the road, you just hook it up to your vehicle, you reinflate your tires right there before you get on the highway and head back or whatever. But yeah, very definitely recommended to do that.
Great questions. Yes, sir, in the back.
Besides the tent, what do you sleep on? Air mattress, sleeping bag?
Yeah.
What's your setup?
Our tent has a sleeping pad already in it, and it's 4-inch. Andy says it's 4-inch, so it's actually pretty comfortable. Like I said, we've been backpacking and slept on the ground, so it's way more comfortable than that. And we just throw a couple of down blankets and a couple of pillows up there.
So my tent has a 2-inch pad in it that just stays there. It's okay, but we typically will take a backpacking sleeping pad or air mattress, the thinner ones, blow it up, put it in there, and then put our sleeping bags on top, and that seems to do the trick. But I have slept on it without that. It's okay, but I definitely like having that extra cushioning.
I think the point too is if you hike enough during the day, you can sleep on anything. You're tired enough. Yes, sir.
Almost 50-something years ago, I used to teach college courses, mountaineering in college. So we did lots of backpacking. But as we got older, we could still backpack from a Miata.
Nice.
Everything's in the trunk. Don't have to carry it. And you're not off-roading anymore. You have to make sure you're on a legitimate road. But you can get away from people. You can backpack and do all those things as you age.
That's great to know. That's good. Yeah, love that. Pack it in a Miata and still go. Oh, it is? Okay. What's your favorite trip? What's your favorite location?
The world. We've been in over 100 different countries.
Yeah, not backpack.
Backpacking.
Glacier? Okay, that's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
You've been to Glacier?
Yeah, Glacier absolutely.
Please carry bear spray with the safety clip cut off and your holster not latched, ready to use, because the bear will come up when you're not expecting.
Yeah.
You
Great.
don't have time to.
Unlatch everything.
No,
Yeah.
no.
You see
Yeah.
people in the parks with the safety straps or on.
Yeah. Well, and those are areas where, I have not been to Glacier or Yellowstone yet. It's on my bucket list. But those are areas that have the grizzlies. So yeah, not just the black bears. So you're absolutely right.
And sing when you're hiking, or make noise.
Lots of noise.
Yeah. Great points. Great points. I actually just saw they had their second wildlife death in Arkansas in the last month, black bears, which is very unheard of. But a man just died camping. He was attacked by a black bear. So, yeah, we're in their space out there. So, any other? Yes, sir.
I was going to say, either one have interesting stories about beating up people on the trail that don't report you down, vehicle problems, trying to make it out.
Not vehicle related, but so going back, Jennifer mentioned some of the safety things. So like a Garmin InReach, which is a satellite communicator. I carry one with me all the time when I'm out there hiking, and the more I got into it, I actually got it more so because I kept seeing people not being very smart out there on the trail. And in the summer, our whole group, we kind of follow all the stories when search and rescue gets deployed in the different counties to see what happened, what did the hiker do wrong. And so when I was hiking Bierstadt and what's called Blue Sky now, it used to be Mount Evans, we were crossing the Sawtooth Traverse, and I saw a guy up above us, and I was watching where his path was going to go, and he was going to cliff himself out if he didn't turn around. And so just things like that. So I yelled up to him and said, hey man, the path you're on is not going to get you. You need to come down and join us. And he was pretty grateful in the end that I did that. But I've just seen enough instances and read enough instances that I'm like, it's not just for me, it's just in case I come across somebody too, that I can hit that SOS button and it will send out to search and rescue that exact location and know that that person hopefully will get taken care of, and or myself if it just happens to be me. But yeah, it happens every year out there, and so just having some of that equipment so you're prepared for sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so what do you normally eat?
What do we eat?
Yeah, like, I know you have to pack stuff that are light,
Yep.
easy to carry, and can last for a while, just in case. So I know he said his favorite snack is nuts.
Yeah.
He said yours was Cheez-Its. So what else do you
Cheez-Its,
eat
yep.
For nutrition?
Yeah. I know Tracy's done more of the backpacking than we have. We've just been on a couple of night backpacking trip, and so if you've seen, I'm trying to think of some of the brand names. What? Freeze-dried, basically a mountain house, and this is our little stove thing where you can boil the water and you pour the packet in. We've done MREs on backpacking trips. They're disgusting. God bless our troops for eating those. But with overlanding, we've got a little bit more room. We've got a lot of these plastic tubs. But we kind of got, one of the things that we learned from our first trip out overlanding was that we overpacked, and we overpacked food that we didn't really end up eating, and we didn't, after a long day of hiking or driving somewhere, we didn't really like cooking. And so it's a lot of just like easy, granola bars, fruit, nuts. For me, it's Cheez-Its, beer, can't forget the beer. That really though, it's water, beef jerky, really just kind of unwrapped meals. So we're not big into cooking very much. But I know backpacking is a little bit different. You really do. I'm amazed by some of the people that go on, multi-day, 4 or 5, day hikes, because I don't know how you pack enough food for that. But I'll let Tracy answer what his favorite foods are.
Yeah, so a little different for my wife and I. We're both vegetarians, so we really have to think about what are we taking, what are we going to take that has enough protein in it. I'm a huge trail mix guy, so nuts, M&Ms, craisins, stuff like that. And that's what I do when I'm hiking 14ers, or even if I'm backpacking, I take some of that for snacks. There's obviously a lot of sort of vegetarian protein options out there now, so it's easier to pack, fairly lightweight. But I'm kind of I like to plan those things out, and so I will, one, I got to make sure everything, if we're doing a multi-day backpack, that it all will fit in my bear canister, which, if you're not sure what a bear canister is, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a canister that you put your food in, that you put 100 plus yards away from your tent every night, and a bear theoretically can't get into it. He might be able to bat it around or something, but he can't walk off with it. So, but a lot of sort of dry soup mix with some seasonings and stuff like that I can just put in my water, let it rehydrate, and then turn on my boiler for a couple of minutes till it gets hot. We do eat seafood, so I'll take tuna packets, salmon packets, and that's protein there, obviously. But then just actually breakfasts, sometimes I will just take a meal bar, or sometimes I'll take like oatmeal with powdered milk in it or something like that. And, lunches are usually just snacks during the day. One of the things I do, whether I should or not, I don't know, is I always buy a big thing of tortillas, and that's the first thing to go in the bottom of and then I can take peanut butter packets, honey packets, whatever it is, or even tuna, make a wrap, eat that, and get some quick energy, and yeah.
Tracy made a great point. It's in one of our photos, but the bear canister. So if you're out backpacking, you have a bear canister, never eat any snacks or any food in your tent. Always eat and prepare.
Hands on your clothes.
Yeah, don't wipe your hands on your clothes. Don't prepare any food near your tent. Keep it as far away from your tent as possible. And then when you're camping too, put your camp spot away from a water source. So if you're next to a lake or a stream, don't camp right there, right next to the water, because that's where animals go in the middle of the night to get their drink, and you don't want to be their midnight snack. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Where are you going next?
Oh, great question. Great question. Tracy, where are you going next?
Well, to those 3 peaks next summer for sure. After that, sort of my desire is to either convert to something like what Andy and Jennifer have, because I want that more clearance, or to get the Forerunner lifted. Once I'm done with those peaks, I want my wife and I to start going out on some of the more rugged four-wheel drive trails to get out to some of the really remote places where we can camp up, set up camp for a night in the car, and then go off on a 2 or 3 or maybe 4-day backpack, come back and know that we can spend another night at the car, everything is still good, and then work our way back out. So just getting more sort of deeper into the backcountry is kind of the next thing.
I think we're going to go with Tracy. No, we'll follow you. One of the things that Andy has kind of become a bit of a rock hound since we've been out in the backcountry, and one of the things that one of the places he would like to go, he's become obsessed with petrified wood. We want to go to the National Petrified Forest or National Park in Arizona. So that's on our list. But there's so many other places to explore in Utah as well. So I think the Southwest, I never thought I'd say the Southwest is our favorite. So we've been to New Mexico numerous times. Like to explore more of Utah, and Andy wants to go to Arizona. So great question. Well, thank you guys for being so attentive. If you